Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Antonella Sorace. I'm going to talk about bilingualism, or two languages in one brain. Who am I and what's bilingualism? I'm a researcher at Edinburgh University. We do research on two languages in one brain at all ages. So we study bilingual children, two languages from birth, two languages, one first and then the other, but still within childhood. Foreign languages as adults, so second language learning, so late bilingualism. What is bilingualism? Well, many people understand, what do you understand by bilingualism? Many people understand that a bilingual is someone who speaks two languages perfectly well, to the same level, possibly from birth. And this is not the way I'm going to use the term bilingualism. For me, a bilingual is someone who uses two languages regularly in their everyday life. So it's a broader meaning of bilingualism than this very specific, balanced, perfect knowledge of two languages, which really doesn't exist. The more common way, the more common meaning of bilingualism, well, it's getting more and more common in our society, all over Europe, because people move around more, there are more mixed families, people grow up with more than one language. And yet, there are so many misconceptions about bilingualism. People really have very weird beliefs about bilingualism. For example, many people think that if a child grows up with two languages, they're going to be confused. They're going to be mixed up. And people think, well, will my child ever learn to speak any language properly? Will my child, when they go to school, will the presence of a second language compromise learning to read and write in the main language? Well, we have the instruments now to study very young babies. And by using these instruments, we know that even very young babies can tell the two languages apart. So they're not mixed up, they're not confused. Another common misconception is that if a child has more than one language, well, they're going to be delayed in other areas. Well, this is a curious idea. It seems to imply that the brain is like a box with a finite number of compartments. And if you put two languages there, or even three languages, there is less space for other things. Well, we know that the brain doesn't work like that. The brain is very powerful. It's not a finite box. So if anything, as I'm going to say in a minute, a child benefits from growing up with two languages. They're not delayed, it's an advantage. And a third misconception is, well, because people think bilingualism is an effort, right? Two sets of words, two grammars, two sets of rules. Well, it might be worth it, but only if it involves two useful languages. And what do people mean by useful? Well, they mean widely spoken, right? So French in this country, English everywhere else in Europe, that's the language that is worth investing on. What about Gallic here? What about Sardinian in Italy? What about Breton in France? What about minority languages? Well, those are not really worth it. Well, I'm going to tell you in a minute, and this is my message, that it doesn't matter which languages a child grows up with, because it's the fact of having two languages in the same brain that really changes the brain for the better. This is the message. Being bilingual really changes the brain. What does it mean? Well, I don't have time to give you all the details, but I'm going to give you three examples. The first example is that a bilingual child has two linguistic systems in the same brain, by definition. And the fact of having two language systems actually draws the child's spontaneous attention on how language works. So this means that a bilingual child understands how language works better than a monolingual child, a child who has only one language. So they understand sounds better, they understand words better, they understand sentences better. And because of this spontaneous, implicit understanding of language, they tend to be better language learners. So a bilingual child will find learning a third language easier, or a fourth language. So picking up other languages later on will be much easier. Also, being more aware of language actually facilitates learning to read. So because a bilingual child has a better implicit understanding of sounds, they understand that there are correspondences between printed letters and sounds of the spoken language, which is how you learn to read a language like English or any other language that has an alphabetic script. So many bilingual children learn to read earlier than monolingual children. Another example, a bilingual child knows very early on that not everybody is bilingual like themselves. So there are monolingual people who speak only one language, monolingual people who speak only the other language, and other bilingual people who speak two languages like themselves. So they learn to classify people into bilingual and monolingual and choose the right language depending on who they're talking to. Now, because of this, because they have to understand that not everybody shares their language competence, bilingual children are better at understanding, in general, that other people can have different points of view. They have different perspectives. And this is a major milestone in all children. Children have to learn that they're not the center of the world, and other people can have different points of view. Bilingual children get there earlier than monolingual children. Third example, bilingual children, and bilingual adults, always have both languages active. So you can't switch off a language in the morning because you're not needing. So at the moment, I'm actually trying to make sure that my Italian, which is my native language, in case you're wondering, is not really interfering with my English. So all bilinguals, when they speak one language, they have to block off the other. And they have to do this all the time. So they have to choose the right language and block out the other language. So they have to develop a control mechanism that allows them to do that. And it is this control mechanism that is extended to other areas. And so what happens? It happens that bilingual children are better at paying attention to what really matters without being distracted by other things. This is a very useful ability indeed, in whichever task you happen to do, in whichever area of life, profession, you happen to choose later on, because we all have to pay attention to what we're doing without being distracted by other things. So bilingual children are better at focused attention. They're also better at multitasking. They're better at switching from one task to the other and still focus their attention. So this is remarkable, and it's something that comes from the experience of using more than one language. So advantages all over or across the board, and these advantages actually tend to last for a lifetime. So bilingualism really is an investment for lifetime, because these advantages are found not only in children, but also in adults who have grown up with two languages, also in elderly people. And some studies that you may have heard about have found that elderly people who have used more than one language throughout their lives keep their cognitive faculties for longer. We need more studies, but that is a very promising finding indeed. What about late bilinguals? You may be wondering, well, most of us are not early bilinguals, so do we also have these advantages? Well, there is some preliminary research that shows that even when you're a late bilingual, so you learn a language as an adult, but you reach a very high level of competence, you also share some of these cognitive benefits. So people like myself, have some hope. I've learned English later on and not from birth as my children have. So what can we do? The problem is that people have these misconceptions. People don't know. People don't know how good bilingualism is. So we need to make sure that more and more children grow up with two languages, so that more and more adults enjoy these benefits, so that society as a whole enjoys people who have these advantages, who have these enhanced abilities. So we need to change the attitudes towards bilingualism. And we can do this in one way. Well, you can do this in many ways, but there is one way that we think will work. And this way is by providing information. So information is crucial. People don't have the right information. As we said, people have misconceptions and false beliefs. So we need to make sure that people have the correct information about bilingualism. And this is where Bilingualism Matters started. We started Bilingualism Matters very small from Edinburgh because we became aware of the gap between what we know, what is emerging, not just from our own research, but research across the world, really. So people don't know, and you can't blame them because they don't know if nobody bothers to make the message accessible. And this is what we're doing. So Bilingualism Matters is an information service that tries to disseminate the results of research on bilingualism, making sure that the message is simple and effective and people can actually get it. And if parents understand how bilingualism works, if teachers understand how bilingualism works, and health professionals, and politicians, and policymakers, then they can make informed decisions about bilingualism. Not decisions that are based on misconceptions, but decisions that are based on actual facts and actual research. So we talk to everybody. We give seminars to families and schools and speech therapists, for example. We now collaborate with the Scottish government. So we have a channel with them because there are people who can decide where to invest resources. And we think that deciding to invest resources, for example, in exposing children to foreign languages much earlier than now is a good investment, not just for those children, but for society as a whole. So basically, we deal with three areas. We try to encourage early exposure to foreign languages in children, so much earlier than at the moment in this country. We try to make sure that immigrant families don't abandon their home language. And this is a serious problem because immigrant families come here, they think that their language is a problem for their children, they stop speaking it, they force themselves to speak broken English at home, and that is not good for anybody. So we tell them that if they keep their language, their child will learn English faster, better, and they will enjoy the benefits of having two languages in the same brain. And finally, we deal with minority languages like Gaelic here, but as I said, there are many minority languages across the world and across Europe. So parents don't speak these languages because they think they're useless, because they think it's a burden. But we have to persuade them that these minority languages are a fantastic opportunity. These people are privileged, and they don't see the privilege they have. They're privileged because they have an opportunity to give two languages to their child and give them all the benefits that come from bilingualism. So there is a lot of work to do, but we are growing. We are growing because now we have many activities all over Europe. We have branches of Bilingualism Matters in several countries. We have one in the Western Isles, which is still Scotland, and we work particularly on Gaelic there. We have one in Norway, in northern Norway, and there we work on immigrant families and Sami as the minority language there. We have one in Greece, in Thessaloniki. We'll soon have one in Italy and one in Sardinia. So we have a network of European branches. There is a lot of work to be done in this country because this country has a privilege of having English as the world language, but that's a limitation as well, because people are not motivated to learn languages, because people think, well, why bother? Everybody speaks English, right? well, it's not even right that everybody speaks English, but people need to know that learning languages is useful for all kinds of things, not just in an instrumental way, but also because it really changes the brain for the better. So I'd like to hear your opinion. You can find our contacts on the leaflets, the blue leaflets that are all over there. We welcome feedback, we welcome ideas, we welcome donations if you want to kindly donate, because we are operating on a voluntary basis, largely. Well, thank you very much for listening.